I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 173, If You Feel Unsafe with Physical Intimacy. I used to think of myself as the wife of a porn addict, but I do not think of myself that way anymore, and you don't have to either. In this podcast, I am going to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you can stop living your life around your husband's pornography addiction. I am going to teach you how to stop being the victim and how to conquer his pornography addiction, even if he never does. I'm Jolene Wynn. I am a certified life coach, and I am a member of the LDS faith and the wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the Porn Addict's Wife. Hello, my ladies. I am so excited to be talking to you today. Happy Labor Day. This is coming out on Labor Day. I'm recording this a couple of days early. I am going out of town. I'm going to go up to Delaware and visit my parents for Labor Day and pick up my kids. My mom came to visit last week and she stayed for a couple of days, and then she took my 5 kids home with her to visit my parents and to spend some time just with them, and they think it's amazing. And my daughter, the whole time, they left on Sunday and we're coming up in a couple of days for the weekend and then to bring them back home. And my 5-year-old Dixie, she was like, "Mom, I just don't want you to come." I was like, "Why?" She's like, "Because I just want to live at grandma's and I don't want you to come pick us up." And I thought, that's fair. I did. I was like, yeah, I know. Grandmas are really the best. I totally get it. I get it. It's totally fine. But we're going to go pick them up. Dixie will be very sad that we are going to pick them up, and then we'll bring them back home. And I hope you guys are having a great Labor Day and that it's safe and wonderful. And I am really excited to talk to you guys today. I love it. One of the things that I wanted to remind you is that the doors to my coaching program are closed right now, but you can get on the wait list. So if you go to my website, jolenewynn.com, you will be able to join the wait list so that you will be the first to know when I open them back up. I don't know when that will be, but I am very excited to be spending this time focusing on my clients. And if you're on the wait list, then you will be the very first one to know when that opens back up. Also, if you guys have been wanting to go on the retreat, if you've been thinking about going to the in-person retreat that I am doing in October in North Carolina at the beach, we have this amazing beach house, this private beach house with access to the beach. We have a heated pool, a private heated pool. That's going to be amazing. And if you guys have been thinking about joining it, if you want to come and spend those 3 days coaching and working on yourself and just up leveling, then I want to encourage you to go sign up today. There are less than 7. It's over halfway full, and it always sells out right at the end. So go to my website, jolenewynn.com. You can go to the retreat tab and you will be able to sign up today to secure your spot. And I can't wait to see you there. This time we're going to focus a lot on not only on whatever it is that you feel called. Like if you feel called to sign up for this, if you're like, man, I would love that, this is for me, go ahead and do it. And whatever that reason is, you bring that to the retreat. And then I'm going to work with you one-on-one so much while we're there to help you through whatever that reason is. And we're also going to focus a lot on really just becoming a new version of yourself, of transforming into the person that you want to be. Because every belief that you have about yourself is optional. If you believe that you're introverted, if you believe that you're not enough, if you believe that you're just not the type of person who gets to have the fairy tale, whatever that belief is, the beliefs are that you have, that collection of thoughts about yourself, they're all optional. And so this retreat, I'm really going to help you guys focus on reinventing yourself and choosing new thoughts to believe about yourself. You can choose to believe that you're confident and capable and sexy and strong and resilient and beautiful, and all of that is available to you. And if that sounds like something you want, then go sign up today before it sells out. Okay? All right, ladies, today I want to talk to you about something that comes up a lot when we're dealing with pornography problems, and that is struggling with not feeling safe when you are physically intimate with your spouse. And maybe you use a different word. Unsafe is a word that I hear a lot, but it also just can be vulnerable. Now, today I'm going to talk to you guys about why this happens, okay? So if you even think that you guys are having, no matter what condition your sexual relationship is with your husband, whether that is oh, we have a great sex life, or like, oh, it's really struggling right now. It doesn't matter. Okay. This is for you because we're going to talk about why this happens. All right. Now, what happens, this was kind of sparked by conversations that I had not only on Instagram with just some women that were messaging me, but also with a client. And my client messaged me and she said, I'm still just, processing some things. Her husband had just relapsed. And she said, I've noticed that I don't feel safe with intimacy with my husband. She said, I've tried to figure it out. I've tried to break it down. We stopped having intimacy for a while so that I could try and figure this out, but it's just not going away and I can't figure out what's going on. Okay. What I want to offer, ladies, is that if you feel unsafe, number one, let go of all the judgment. It's very, very normal. However you're feeling about it is totally okay. If you're feeling unsafe, that is all right. It doesn't mean that you are unsafe. It's just a feeling. And that's where I want to start. Unsafe is just an emotion. I feel unsafe. Now, it's not a very fun emotion to feel. It's kind of a scary emotion to feel. And our brain has a lot of resistance to it because if we feel unsafe, then our brain's like, well, why do we feel unsafe? Are we going to die? And what I want to offer is that no, it's just a feeling. So that's the number one thing that I want to offer first is notice that it's just an emotion and it's an uncomfortable emotion, but it doesn't mean that it's true, right? Just because I feel unsafe doesn't mean that I am unsafe in this sexual relationship with my husband. Now, I'm not talking about abusive situations. I'm talking about when you have a great husband who's actually treating you really well, or when you guys are physically safe in your relationship and you just feel unsafe, especially sexually, it's just an emotion. So one of the biggest tools that you can have when you feel unsafe in these moments is to bring yourself back to the present. Your brain wants to go to the past. Your brain wants to go to what he's seen, to what he's been doing, and it wants to go to the future, what he might be doing, what might he be doing next. It might even want to play the what if game of like, what is he thinking about? Why did he initiate? And it wants to second guess everything. And what I want to offer is that you take this opportunity to go into your body in that moment. Right? And what I mean is you focus on what you're feeling and you remind your brain, right now I am safe. I am with my husband. I can feel I can feel his hands on my arm. I can feel my breath going in and out of my lungs. I can feel myself relax against the mattress. Like just get really present with what you are feeling and with yourself and remind your brain that you are safe. Okay, does that make sense? So even if you feel unsafe, it doesn't mean that it's true. Now, one of the reasons why this is so compounded with during physical intimacy is because physical intimacy is a very vulnerable thing for ourselves and our brain, right? Our brain does not like physical vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is just being open to potential pain and hurt, right? Vulnerability, that's all it is, okay? So when we are feeling unsafe, it's because we have more vulnerability, right? We have increased our chances of getting hurt. Now, when we are physically intimate with somebody, think about it, all of our guard is down, right? We are increasing our physical vulnerability. This is a relationship that we don't have with anyone else, right? This intimate physical relationship with our spouse is not one that we replicate or have multiple partners. We have one person and that's who we're with. And this is the person that we are most physically vulnerable to. We don't have any clothes on. We are just, all of our insecurities are on the line. We have so much physical vulnerability. And so our brain is heightened just by sheer nature of that alone. But add on top of that, the emotional vulnerability that comes with that, with those insecurities, with the pornography and what we make it mean about us and all of our stuff that it brings to the surface. And that's why it's such a trigger, shall we say, for feeling unsafe and feeling vulnerable, right? Because that's really all the emotion of unsafe is feeling vulnerable. right? Physical vulnerability combined with emotional vulnerability can be a little overwhelming. And that is why physical intimacy can be so challenging or difficult to work through after a betrayal of some kind, right? So what I want to offer again is that you focus on the idea and on the fact that feeling unsafe is just a feeling, and feeling vulnerable is just a feeling. And what if you were willing to feel it? What if you were willing to feel a little unsafe? What if you were willing to feel a little vulnerable? If you guys have been around for a hot minute, then you know that your feelings are created by your thoughts, right? So the reason that you're feeling unsafe, the reason that you're feeling vulnerable is because of the thoughts that you're thinking. Thoughts like, is this really about me? Is he thinking about me? What's he thinking about? Why did he initiate this? Is this just a reaction from him wanting to watch porn? Is he using me as a distraction? All of those kinds of thoughts are the reason why we feel the way we do. Okay. And now I'm not saying that all those thoughts are bad. I just want you to be aware that those are the thoughts that are creating your feelings. So one of the best exercises that you can do is get really curious, not in that moment necessarily, but afterward or beforehand or as you're listening to this podcast, is get really curious. Why do I feel unsafe or vulnerable when I'm physically intimate with my husband? And a lot of it might have to do with his pornography, and some of it might not. Some of it might be, well, I'm worried what he thinks about my body. I get uncomfortable taking off all of my clothes. I'm very conscious or aware of my stretch marks, right? Whatever it is, just write it all down, because becoming aware of why we feel the way we feel is the first step in learning how to shift it and change it if you want to. Okay, so if you're struggling with feeling physically vulnerable or unsafe when you're having sex with your husband, then this is really the key. Okay, number one, again, is noticing and recognizing that it's just an emotion and it doesn't mean that it's true. Okay, your brain thinks it is. Your brain thinks if you feel unsafe, then it means that you are unsafe, and so it wants to run away. It wants to avoid doing it. It will want to not have sex. It will want to avoid it at all costs. Okay, because it doesn't like to feel that feeling. But if you just recognize that's a feeling, that will help. And then also to get really present with your body instead. One of the reasons why we feel unsafe and vulnerable is because our brain is playing what if, or going to the past, or going to the future. And one of the ways you can combat this is just bring yourself back to the present and remind your brain that you are safe. And then also recognizing that the reason that it's coming up so much is because it's not just the physical vulnerability, but it's compounded with the emotional vulnerability. And if you were willing to feel vulnerable, how would that change things? And the other thing that I want you to notice is if this is something that you're struggling with, then I would encourage you to go get on that wait list for my program, because all of that emotional vulnerability comes up in these moments. And if you work through all of that emotional vulnerability that comes from all of that emotional baggage, from all of the years of the pornography and the hurt and everything you're making it mean, once you've worked through all of that, then it creates so much more space for openness that then the physical vulnerability is not something that's added on top of the emotional vulnerability. Does that make sense? Like, you don't then have to have all of it compounded. You've worked through so much of it that it can just be a beautiful present experience, and you don't have to drag the emotional baggage from the past into the experience of the present. One of the worst things that we do is we actually, as the wife, unintentionally bring pornography in between us in the bedroom with our own thoughts. Our thoughts like, what is he thinking about? Is he comparing me to other women? That's actually just us thinking about it and us comparing ourselves to other women. And we don't even realize we're doing it. We think that if he just stopped watching it, then all of those thoughts would automatically go away. No, I promise you that will never work. Why? Because him watching pornography is a circumstance. It's not creating our thoughts. We have the power to control and choose our thoughts. And right now, one of the things that we do is we choose to have thoughts that make us feel vulnerable and unsafe. And one of the reasons that our brain wants to do that is because it wants to avoid it. Okay, it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. Our brain wants to produce that emotion of unsafe so that we can avoid the experience. Why? Because our brain doesn't want to do things that it feels unsafe doing. So it will pretend to be too tired, or it will say, oh, I didn't shave my legs, or it will stay downstairs while the husband goes upstairs and goes to sleep until we know he's asleep, and then we'll go upstairs. And it will avoid having to repeat the experience where it feels unsafe, even though we're the one generating the unsafe feeling in the first place. It sounds nuts, but that's exactly what happens, okay? Our brain doesn't like to feel vulnerable, and so it will avoid it at all costs. The problem with that is that then you are avoiding your husband, and you're avoiding this part of your relationship that could be a beautiful thing. And yes, right now it might feel like it's tainted because of his choices, and I'm not suggesting that it's not, but what I am suggesting is that the ways that it's tainted, the ways that you are affected by it, are more in your control than you think. And when you start recognizing that and start taking action in that, that's when you're going to start being able to see progression, even if he's still struggling with pornography. Okay? So if you're feeling unsafe, just remember that it's just a feeling and that you can just feel it. And it doesn't mean that it's true. Bring yourself back to the present. Notice that it's just your brain having emotional vulnerability compounded with physical vulnerability. And then ask yourself, what if I'm willing to feel vulnerable? If I were willing to feel vulnerable, how would I respond? Maybe would I initiate? If I were willing to feel this feeling, what would I do? How would I react? And how could that change things? I hope this helps. I love you ladies so much. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. So take care. All right, ladies, it's time to rise up and take charge of your healing, and I have the best way for you to do it. I have created a lifetime access coaching program that I have designed specifically for you and exactly what you're going through right now. This is where I help you develop a personal mastery of all the tools that you're learning here on the podcast in order for you to create a permanent change. Go to my website, joleneWynn.com. You will find all the information there, and you can sign up today, and we will start going forward. I can't wait to see you there.